Creating your own reality. Is it possible for me? I am Jennifer K. Hill, the Consciousness Architect, and I am here to tell you that it's not only possible, it's closer than you might think. Welcome to the show. Hello, friends, and welcome back to another episode of Regarding Consciousness. I am your host, Jennifer K. Hill, and I am so grateful to get to search the world and wander and find you some of the greatest thought leaders around consciousness and how we can utilize our own consciousness to live our fullest and most meaningful lives. And today we have an incredible thought leader who has a new book coming out January 21st, Lee Holden. The book is called Ready, Set, Slow. I think it might be the favorite book title I've ever heard. When Lee and I had the pleasure of meeting at an event that we were at earlier this year, and he told me about it, I said, oh my gosh, everything is about the book title. I would pick up that book, if nothing else, just to see what it's about. And in addition to being an incredible thought leader and author with Mind Valley, Lee also is the head of Holden Qigong. And I have to tell you, for years, ever since I first heard about Qigong about 15 years ago, I had been looking for my Qigong teacher. Who is the teacher who can teach me Qigong in a way that flows and is easy to understand? And then Lee and I connected, and I had the privilege of getting to do a few in-person sessions with him at a couple of the events that we've been at together. And then now having a subscription to his Holden Qigong programs. Transformational. Lee, I kudos to you, my friend, for what you're bringing to the world, to the beautiful quality of these videos that people can subscribe to. I know you have special free trials people can try. I just love it. Like when I do your Qigong, I even have a little device called a Healy that measures my aura. And say my aura is at 70%, I'll do one of your Qigong classes, and then all of a sudden my aura will be back to 100%. So I love and appreciate you, and I'm so happy you're here with us today.
Oh, Jennifer, thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. I feel now inspired and energized for the rest of my day. Thank you.
Let's talk about that. Energize and energy. A
Mm.
couple of my favorite Qigong, I would call it workouts, but I don't even want to call that it. Qigong exercises, I guess I would call it that you do. There's a special one you do for manifesting. And I feel
Mhm.
like that's a very potent topic right now, is so many of us have these deep-seated desires and things that we would love to see happen in the world.
Mhm.
Is it that we can do? What is the background? How can we use Qigong to not only move our energy and get rid of that icky swamp energy that we sometimes get stuck in as
Mm.
humans, but how can we also redirect that energy using our breath and our movement to live our best life?
And that is the question, isn't it? Getting right to the point. And this term chi, which means life force energy, which is different than other kinds of energy. And because there's energy all around us, there's gravity and electromagnetism, and there's energy of the atoms, but this is a special kind of energy. This is the energy that gives you life. So it's the energy of your body, your heartbeat, your breath, your brain, your nerve current. There is bioelectricity moving through you, and it's mystical. Nobody can explain it. How does the heartbeat start? It is one of the most mystical things about who we are as human beings. So let's stand on the precipice of being in awe of ourselves and our life. And then there's all these wonderful treasures to excavate within us. And I think Qigong just helps you to excavate those inner treasures and the power of your life force energy, your beautiful heart energy, and the power of your consciousness, the power of your mind. Because mind is energy, it is invisible. It's not like we can hold the mind in our hands. We can visualize something, but if you did brain surgery, you're not going to see what that person is visualizing. It's an electrical current that's moving through us. So the ancient masters called this chi. Now, chi helps us to manifest what we want. Absolutely. Because when we're manifesting, when we want something in our lives, it takes energy. So in a Qigong term, there's a few exercises that we embody to create our day or create our week or create what we want to bring into our own reality. For example, there's one called the archer. And the archer is a movement where you're pulling an imaginary bow, and it brings energy to your lungs to open up and awaken your inspirations. And then you use your mind, your intention, to pick a goal. So much like an archer, there's a few things that need to happen for that arrow to hit the target. One is you need enough energy. You need enough energy behind the arrow. So when you're pulling the bow and aiming at the target, there's enough chi, there's enough power. Chi can also be thought of as power. And you also have to have clear intention. Clear intention is like aiming the arch, the bow, and the arrow at the target. So clear intent and clear and strong energy is what allows that arrow to hit the target. The other thing that we need is to be not distracted. So we
Mm.
can't be like looking around while we're aiming at the target. And we need to be detached. You need to let the arrow go and not try to worry about if it's going to hit the target. You have to just be let it go. So we can embody these principles and not just have them be in our minds, but they can move through our bodies and be part of our energy system. And I love that because it makes that manifesting process all that much more rich and powerful. So Qigong is a movement practice, but it's also a moving meditation. It is a practice of longevity and health because your health is your most valuable asset, according to the Qigong master. So it is part of Chinese medicine, and it was called the art of preventing disease and prolonging life.
Mm. How have you seen that show up in your own life with manifesting health? I know you're traveling around the world, hopping on a plane tomorrow to Switzerland to speak with many luminaries such as Greg and Bruce and others. How do you use it in your own life to channel that energy for your personal well being?
Yeah, I feel like in my own life, it is absolutely mandatory. I'm very busy. I have 4 daughters. I have a toddler and 3 teenagers, and I running 2 businesses. And when I'm doing my practice, I'm more efficient, I'm more energized, I'm less stressed, and I get so much more done because I'm moving with the forces and the flows of life rather than being in resistance against them. It's
Mm.
much like swimming with the current or swimming against the current. So stress is when we're swimming against the current. And one thing that happens when you're swimming against the current is you don't have vision. When you're swimming with the current, you can see the obstacles that are coming in your way so that your body and your mind is expressing a force that's larger than yourself, and you're not hitting the boulders, getting tangled up on the banks. So
Mm.
when you're in flow, your mind body system, your energy system is connected to the forces that flow through you in your life. You're connected to your purpose, and you're connected to your source of energy, which is often considered the earth, nature, and the universe around you. And then it's fun. You're having fun manifesting and creating and moving and weaving your way through your own personal flow that is unique to you. It doesn't have to look like anybody else's. And when you're doing your practice, when I'm doing my practice, I'm feeling very connected to who I am authentically and living my best life and not trying to replicate or live somebody else's life because I'm witnessing other people. So it really gets you in touch with your true sense of energy because we are all so unique. And as soon as we start to look outside of ourselves, sometimes we get distracted, we get confused, we don't understand what our purpose is. And so my practice each and every day really helps me to line up to that inner truth and to that purpose.
Mm. I want to bring it back to what you just mentioned and what you brought up earlier of this idea of the bow and arrow and just the archer and pulling this arrow back and then staying focused. I think in today's Starbucks, Amazon driven world that we're living in, focus can be a very challenging thing. And actually, I heard another podcast lately talking about this idea of competing desires. And
Mhm.
oftentimes we ask ourselves, I do all the right things. I meditate, I listen to Lee, I listen to Joe Dispenza or whatever, but I haven't found my soulmate or I haven't built my dream business or traveled the world. And the idea came up of these competing desires. I want a soulmate, but I also want my independence. So, how
Mhm.
do we channel that energy when life can be distracting and there can be many things vying for our squirrel attention?
Mhm. Absolutely. Such a good question. And I think for me, it is coming into our center and remembering that we can calm and relax down this upper wisdom center of our brain and our responsibility and the mind of what ifs, and oh, I couldn't do that, and oh, there's also a lot of mental stress and inner oppressive thoughts. The goal in Eastern practices is actually to quiet your upper wisdom center, that your brain is more of like the observation deck, where you look out into the world and observe. And your heart is the guidance to where you should steer your ship or your boat or point your arrow. Because the heart is a wisdom center. And when you study these great scientists, like you just mentioned, Bruce Lipton and Greg Braden, and all these other wonderful scientists, Deepak Chopra, you understand that the heart is a brain. It's not just a pump, it has neurological activity, and that your body has neurological activity in it, meaning that you have a thinking body. It's no longer the mind and the body, it's mind body, it's connected. And to tap into different areas for different purposes can be extremely helpful, because the upper mind of just thinking can get us very distracted and confused. So we come into the heart mind as one of those centers, and the heart is going to lead you towards what is most joyful, what is most purposeful. And so that is a good guidance system. And then you have another one in your belly. This is your kinesthetic wisdom, your body wisdom, your gut feelings about things. And this is where the magic happens. We don't always know. Life is full of surprises, and you don't have to know, because and I know, or anybody else who's planned a trip, hey, I'm going to plan a trip to go to Europe. You can do wonderful plans, but then life throws in some curveballs, and there's all these wonderful surprises. And so when you're in your center, you can feel the flow and flexibility to move through life with ease and effortless flow, no matter what life is bringing you. And so I think head, heart, and belly need to be in alignment with what it is that we want. And if one of those centers isn't, let's say, bringing about what you truly desire, tune into another one and get these three centers in alignment and communicating to each other.
Such powerful feedback, Lee. And as you were sharing that, I was shown an image in my mind's eye of some of the techniques that I've done in doing your classes. And one of the things that occurred to me is you're doing a lot of the opening of the heart and then
Mhm.
closing and the opening and closing. And what dawned on me as you were sharing that, Lee, is that when we feel sad, scared, upset, what do? We actually often curl up in a ball and we're protecting all of those organs, the
Mhm.
heart, the stomach, our head, right? And yet, to me, Qigong and in the short time I've been studying with you and the beautiful work you're doing is about an opening and a releasing and knowing it's safe. It's safe for your heart to be open. It's safe for your stomach to feel expansive and that we don't have to hide and protect. Does that resonate at all?
Absolutely. And I think the main goal is truly to understand when we're in survival mode and stress mode, and how to navigate out of that particular inner mode to be open hearted. And there are times when we do want to be safe and protected. But most of the time, your stress mode and your survival mode is an overreaction to life. And you have to really turn on your upper mind and say, hey, is this actually life threatening? Most of the time, it's not, right? Giving a talk in front of 100 people, 500 people, 1,000 people, you will go into survival mode. And you have to tell yourself, hey, these people are not life threatening, right? When we look into our finances or the stock market or other things, we have to calm that stress mode down so that we can enter into heart mode. Because what people actually want is to be happy and fulfilled and inspired and excited and compassionate and kind. But that doesn't happen when we're in stress, because when we're in stress, we're in survival. When we're in survival, we're self-centric and it's me and mine. And we're also really connected to just our five senses and not going beyond, not transcending those five senses or transcending the material world into all of these frequencies and vibrations, which we call chi, that we can tune into. So a big part of the goal is to lower stress, and number two, increase energy. Because when you have more energy, we don't get overwhelmed by life's challenges. If your energy is depleted, little things bring us into stress mode. and we can't navigate our way out. The first thing to do in our manifesting work or creative work, or even in our cultivation of health type of work, is to lower our stress levels. And then second, increase your energy. And these go hand in hand, because when we increase energy, we're going to feel more resourced, we're going to be replenished, and we're going to be inspired. And so those foundational things set us up for greater success, greater and greater success. And they're things that are actionable each and every day, and they're accessible. You don't have to take a lot of time to do it. It just takes some consistency, because we have been trained to be busy and hurried, to be worried, to be fast paced. And what we can do is slow down and start to craft and create our moments each and every day, create elevated moments each and every day where we're deeply connected to life, to each other, to life all around us, to nature, and to our deepest desires and goals.
Beautifully. And let's talk about that idea of ready, set, slow that you talk about in the book. For those of us who might be type A, driven, going, doing like you, might have multiple kids or multiple businesses, it almost seems daunting and insurmountably. Oh, it's a great theory. Thank you for this beautiful theory of ready, set, slow. But practically, how do we shift out of that amygdala, that fight or flight reactivity, and back into our prefrontal cortex, our ability for compassion and to be responsive rather than reactive?
Mm.
How do we do that in real time?
Yeah, in real time, you always have your breath. And so try it right now, folks. If you take a 5-second inhale and a 5-second exhale, you're going to shift your internal energy. So 1, 2, like slow inhale and a slow exhale. All of a sudden, you're back to the moment. And then shift your mind. Just feel the chair at your back as you take that slow breath. Feel your feet on the floor. Now we're grounded. We've shifted our nervous system from sympathetic to parasympathetic. We're more resourced. Go back to work from there. It took 15, 20 seconds. And those little, what I call chi breaks, are much more effective when you have a practice. Like you've gotten up in the morning, you've done your meditation, you've done your Qigong practice. Now, when you do your little chi breaks throughout the day, they're really effective because they're anchored in a practice.
Mm. On the note of our morning Qigong, so many people might have a practice already. Maybe it does include meditation or breath work, but maybe it doesn't include Qigong. How much Qigong should we do daily, or is it daily, or is it weekly? For people who are just starting off, I often get people who ask me this question because I have a pretty
Mhm.
robust 2-hour practice I do for myself every morning. And it
Mhm.
encapsulates quite a few different things. And people say, where do you start? Like,
Mhm.
how much is too much? How much is too little? How do
Yep.
people know that they're getting the most value and really plugging those energetic holes that are going to drain their energy throughout the day?
Mhm. Yeah, and that's the key. This book is a counterintuitive approach to living your best life, because we think that we need to be busy and rushing to get more done. And all the latest studies show that slow productivity wins out in the end. And it doesn't mean that we have to be slow all the time. You can be going fast, you can be very busy and have this internal relaxation, or internal slow mind that's very present and connected. And in the flow state, always, whether you're an athlete or a extreme athlete like a surfer or an artist, they talk about how time seems to slow down, even though they're going really fast. And so to bring that slowness and that flow into your life will make you much more productive. And not everybody has, let's say, 2 hours, or necessarily feels like they have 2 hours to start a practice, but you might have 20 minutes. And in 20 minutes, you can do a lot. Like in my subscription, I always pare down my hour class into a 20-minute version. And so it gives people a really nice bite-sized practice to do. The other thing that I've done is I've created a 30-day challenge that is only 7 minutes a day. And this is more about starting the habit, because if you start a 7-minute practice, usually you want more. And in 7 minutes, you feel a shift and you feel like, oh, I'm now more energized. I'm now more resourced. I'm more efficient. And people notice that their day flows smoother when they've done their practice and they've gotten more done. It has to come from an experience. So I always really encourage people to experience it for yourself. And if for you, you can only say, okay, I'm going to try it for 7 minutes a day, that is absolutely fine. For me, I love to for people to work up to 20 minutes to an hour. So maybe some days it's 20 minutes and other days it's an hour. And maybe 2 days a week you do an hour practice, and 4 days a week you do 20 minutes. Something like that really is enough time to practice to build your energy and to lower your stress. You need something that will shift you, to shift the habituated way that the mind is set up, the thought process, and to switch your habituated modes of moving through the day. And that can give you those resources.
Beautiful. Thank you, Lee. So, the final question I have is, what would you recommend? Is there anything we haven't covered, either from the book or from your practices, that you think would serve humanity right now? At these times, the election just happened. There's a lot of
Mhm.
unrest and many things happening in the world. What would you say to humanity to help them right now with whatever anybody who's listening at this moment
Mhm.
might need a little extra support or resilience?
I feel like we as human beings struggle against our powerlessness. And when we feel powerless, we tend to contract. We tend to get agitated. And instead of struggling against that powerlessness, whether it's an election, the environment, what are we doing? Let's relax and switch modes. If we relax and clear the stress that's internal to ourselves, we can then cultivate inner peace. If we as individuals are cultivating inner peace, that energy tends to be both contagious and it sends out a different frequency out into the world. We're doing our part to bring peace to ourselves, peace into our families and communities, and we bring that peace by doing it ourselves into the world.
It's so beautiful, and I love that, Lee, because it reminds me of something from Greg Braden. One of the first books I ever read by Greg was called Divine Matrix. And he
Mm,
talked about this idea of a holographic universe. And Bruce Lipton, of course, talks about this as well, that everything we're seeing in the world is really reflection of ourselves and of what's going on. The upper is reflection of the lower, and so on and so forth. They've talked about this in mystical texts for thousands and thousands of years. And so when we find peace within our hearts, instead of getting angry at whoever you might not be happy with politically, or a friend, or somebody who betrayed you, when we can cultivate that inner silence, that inner stillness, and that peace, and the ability to love ourselves no matter what we or somebody else does, then I truly feel, to your point, Lee, that then allows for that to happen more in the world, because all we're seeing reflected around us is a reflection of what's happening for us.
mhm. Yeah, absolutely. And when Qigong, they say go in to go out. So first go inward. Do your inner cultivation. You're like a great gardener of your own internal energy, and life will throw you compost. And how we put that compost into our garden makes a big difference. And I see a lot of people taking compost and just leaving it in their bedroom. And it's like stinky and messy, and it doesn't belong there. That's holding on to our negative emotions. If you take that same energy and you put it in the garden, it's going to give you back a beautiful fruit tree or vegetables or flowers. That's where the energy is supposed to be. And I think we're mismanaging our energy. We don't know how to cultivate energy. And it's very similar to gardening. We want to put negative energy into the earth, and the earth gives us back positive energy. If we hang on to negative energy, it'll be like compost in various rooms, in a kitchen, in the bedroom. And we're just like, why is this so challenging? Why isn't it working? Because the energy isn't in the right place. So I think that's a really important way that we can cultivate our own energy. I think energy is a big term that people are talking about. And the Qigong masters have been talking about energy work. Gong means work. So Qigong, to work with energy and how to do it skillfully. And that is what's going to make the difference between being really stressed out or happy, or in pain and diseased, or healthy and in flow.
So much fun, Lee. I always enjoy our conversations. I'm sure our audience has as well. Where can people connect with you, find you, follow you, subscribe to your classes? I'm a big fan. Highly recommend it.
Wonderful. Thanks, Jennifer. Yeah, holdenqigong.com. And Qigong is spelled Qigong. That's the hardest part about this practice, by the way, how to spell it. holdenqigong.com. And then Ready, Set, Slow is available for pre-order on any of the bookstore platforms.
incredibly. It's such a pleasure to have you here to share your beautiful wisdom and to share your gift, Lee. It truly is a gift. I've tried to learn Qigong from many teachers, including my husband, who I love and adore. And it's, you need to find the right teacher. And I just find
Yes.
you're the little black dress of Qigong. Like you just fit with everyone. It just works
Oh,
perfectly because it
that's
doesn't.
the first time I've heard that, Jennifer. Yeah. And I love it. It's what I've been passionate about for 30 years is to make this esoteric energy work type of practice accessible to everyone. So I'm going to take that little black dress compliment and I'm going to wear it.
Oh, you should. It'll fit you perfectly. Well,
Thank you
I
so much.
yeah, my pleasure, Lee. And thank you to each of you for tuning in, listening. Of course, you can always find these episodes on YouTube as well at Jennifer K. Hill. And for each of you out there, may you go out and may you find that she, that animating energy that gives you life, that joie de vivre, that gives you the ability to breathe, to love, to taste, to fear, to cherish. And may you use that energy to create great good for yourself and others in the world. Thank you.